over here that we are mixing. So there is one explanation that the two levels are Kedusha and Klippa. Shoyer goes on Avraham, it goes on Chesed, Gvura, Chamoyer goes on Klippa. It's the level of Chesed of Klippa. Then there's the level, another way of explaining it, that you have a mixture of Shoyer and Chamoyer are two levels in Klippa. One is the Gvura of Klippa, one is which is the level of Shoyer, and the level of Chesed the Klippa, which is Chamoyer. And when you have a mixture of the two, so then the Kelev, which is on Molek, comes out from between the both of them. And that's why both ways they're not good. This is something that the Reb Marash says in the Maimer and so on. But further, what we wanted to know is the Avoida part. So first the Rebbe explained the first level, the level of the mixture of the Kedusha and the Klippa. And he explains that the level of Shoyer, that's the level of the Nefesh Elikis, dealing with being mevared and nefesh bahamis, because the level of shoyer is lekara that the Tana, the Amor didn't call his field, his ox, my ox, he called it my field, because the whole purpose of the ox is to plow the field. That has to do the general avoid of kedusha, to plow and break down the nefesh bahamis, to be able to bring the nefesh elikis into it, or even to cause a bittul of nefesh elikis. That's also the idea of plowing. So it's all the idea of the shoyer is the level of kedusha, the avoida of plowing the field, which the nefesh elikis is all about. Chamoyer, on the other hand, is even b'tkufas tammuz krirolei, even in the period of when there's a gilui lakus, it is called the opposite of life, the opposite of vitality, the opposite of shoyer, which has all this energy, rav tfus b'koyach shoyer. So that is the opposite of kedusha, and that is why you do not have the plowing of the ox and the chamoyer, the donkey, together, so that the klippa of chamoyer should not receive from shoyer, which is kedusha. So that is the avoida benefesh ha'adam, according to the first explanation, that shoyer is kedusha and chamoyer is klippa. That's what it means. You shouldn't plow with them together, so that the chamoyer klippa should not receive from the avoida of nefesh elikis, which is kedusha. Now, on page 4 of the copies, the Rebbe is going to explain the avoidic interpretation and application when we say the other explanation that shoyer is klippa and chamoyer is klippa. Line 8, page ches. According to the second explanation, that the command that says in the Torah, do not plow with an ox and a donkey together, as we said earlier, it should not be the union of the two klippas, of the ox and the donkey, which is chesed the gvura, the klippa. Chesed of klippa is the chamoyer, that's chesed of klippa, and gvura of klippa, that's the level of the ox. Hinegam shoyer moira ala klippa, also the ox in this interpretation is also klippa. What is that level? B'chinas shoyer hamuad. This is an ox that the Gemara designates, is known to be, and it's appointed to be harmful, and already has a chazakah. We already know that it damages and hurts. The Chazal say that it's such a dangerous type of animal that you need to stay away as far as you can see him, because it's so dangerous that you need to protect yourself in that type of way. You got to use very strong means of protection in such type of instance. Why? Since he is a goring ox that he intends to damage. And the Rebbe goes on to emphasize that there are two types of ways that the Gemara speaks about when the ox can damage and the owners are liable for damages. There's certain damages that it does unintentionally, or it does because it has no intent to damage, just it's going to someone's field and eating the crops. There's no purpose in damage. It's no intent in damaging. It's eating because that's what it enjoys. But to a goring ox is not about that. There's no pleasure in his damage that he's doing by goring. That means he's not doing it for his own desires, because his own appetites. But rather he is essentially a damaging thing, a dangerous thing. That is how tough the klippa of shoir is, a shoir muad, a shoir nagach, that its whole purpose and its whole reason is just to damage. There's no benefit whatsoever. That's understood that that's a very low level. So the Rebbe goes on in line 15, to note, this idea that by his very nature he should be a mazik is not something that's shayach to the nature of a Jewish person normally or naturally. Elom she'afal pikein, despite the fact that this is totally foreign to a Yid, to be to want to damage for no other purpose than to inflict damage. It could be that, heaven forbid, he should accustom himself, he should get into the habit of doing so, until he becomes so accustomed to it that he is considered an ox that is designated and known to be a danger. And because of that, such a dangerous nefesh bahamis, it needs to be affected in it on a refinement and a purification. You really need to work on changing what this person has become. Now, we said before that when the shoir and chamor come together, they give birth to a dog which is a level of amalek. So this type of damaging, this type of hezek that it does just for the sake of being mazik, just to damage, that's an association with Amalek. Line 20. This is also the connection with Amalek. The dog that results from the union of the two klippas of the ox and the donkey, has to go to the klippa canal, the level of kindness and severity and of klippa, like we said before. Shegam beklippas Amalek yeshnam shnei inyanim elu. We can see Amalek has a combination of the chesed of klippa and the gvura of klippa. So the Rebbe is going to challenge it. We know Amalek is about coldness. That seems to be more in the chamor department, like we said before, that chamor betkufas tamas kriralei, that a donkey is cold even in the heat of summer. So he says, though the idea of Amalek is that, with the pasuk says that he met you, and the Mefarshim Chassidus explains karchas and the word kar, cold, inyan akridus, the idea of coldness. So therefore, it seems to be only something to do with the chamor. What does it have to do with the shoir? The effect, the influence of Amalek to do so, the fact that of all the nations that were scared to fight and go to war with the Yidden, he was the one that came to war. It's because of how passionate he was not to become affected by the miracles. That's an idea of heat. So there's both coldness and heat. He was cold that all the miracles didn't affect him. Why was he cold to the miracles? Because he was so passionate, or it resulted, being cold to all the miracles resulted now that he has a whole passion to want to attack the Yidden despite all the miracles that occurred with them. So Amalek really combines both the heat and passion and strong vitality of the ox and the coldness of the donkey. That's why he is created from a union of both of them. Page 5, Ois Gimel. That's also the idea of Avram. That's called an ox, like we mentioned earlier in the Maimer, that he says, that Avram ran to the cattle, that indicated that he was on the level of the ox of Kedusha. Not only does Avram ensure that through him becomes the avodah of the ox of Kedusha, not only that, it's always the opposite of something in Klippa. That opposite number in Kedusha transforms it. So the shoyer, the Klippa, needed and has to counter it the shoyer of Kedusha, which is the level of Avram. But not only does the shoyer of Avram counter and transform the shoyer of Klippa, but also line 5, the Klippa, until he even refines the Chamor, the donkey of Klippa. Until it transforms that instead of it being a negative, the donkey becomes, like it says about Yisachar, that he's a donkey that carries the load of Torah, like a donkey that has like strong bones and carry big loads. So Avram, who's the ox of Kedusha, will transform not only the ox of Klippa, but the Chamor of Klippa to bring it to the world of Yisachar, of Torah learning. And how does that take place? So here we go back to what we were speaking about before, that the Red Marash added to these explanations, that the Bris Milah was to undo and remove the Arla, and therefore remove any hold that the Klippa had. So he says, this is caused through the Bris Milah. Avram Avinu, before having a Bris Milah. So the gematria of his name of Avram was 243, which is the same letters like Gorem about the Chamor's bones. Through the Bris Milah, they added a letter Hey to the name Avram, and now he became Avraham. Now it's the numerical equivalent of 248. Keminyan Chamor b'loy Vav. 248 is Chamor without the letter Vav. So he takes and he now elevates this to be able to become in the world of Yisachar, the world of Kedusha. That's also why Yaakov Avinu said, I had an ox and I had a donkey, because he incorporated and he had within him the shoyer of Kedusha and the Chamor of Kedusha. Why? It says that Yaakov Avinu was born without the need of a Bris Milah. And because of that, because the Arla blocks the Chamor from being able to come up into Kedusha by removing the Arla by the Bris. So then the Chamor comes into the world of Kedusha. So therefore, Yaakov Avinu had both the Shor and Chamor. The Shor and Chamor were by him in Kedusha. Now the Rebbe is going to connect this with its time of year. Line 14. All of this can be connected with the idea of the month of El. We explained previously in Ois Beis yesterday that the plowing is done through an ox. Why is the ox responsible for plowing? Plowing is about breaking it down, by breaking down the klippa. That is the ox of the Merkava, which is on the left. From the oxen face in the Merkava comes down that the left pushes away to lower himself, to break himself like you're breaking the clods of earth, which are to be able to receive the seed. Like it says that his left is under my head. We brought this pasuk. His left is under my head. Now also, in the period of the year, that pasuk is referring to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur versus Sukkot. And it's known and Rosh Hashanah begins that his left is beneath my head. Because when Rosh Hashanah till Yom Kippur, the Alter Rebbe says in the famous Anil Doidi Maimer, that's the level of Hashem's left, because that time is the time where it comes down and is revealed from above, primarily the level of the awe of Hashem. It's not only something of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, but also this ox, which is the left, which is the level of the plowing the field. All of this, the left, and has to do with the month of El. It's also hinted in the word Liroishi. How? The letter Lamed is the 30 days of the month of El. I guess if you include also the first day Rosh Chodesh. V'roishi hu Rosh Hashanah, and my head is going on Rosh Hashanah. So you have that Smoiloi Tachas L'roishi, that Elul and Rosh Hashanah is a time of Smoil, the time of the left. V'gam b'Pascha Sheni shebay namar Smoiloi Tachas Roishi L'loi Lamed. There's another pasuk that it says Smoiloi. It says Tachas Roishi, not Liroishi. It doesn't have the letter Lamed. The Hainu Roish Shal Yud Hu Roish Hashanah Vayud Hu Aser Semei Tshuva. The Roish Yud, that the Roish is Rosh Hashanah, that, and the 10 of the letter Yud, that's Aser Semei Tshuva. But what's the connection with El? But since the Rosh Hashanah and Aser Semei Tshuva come as a result of Elul, so he says, that which comes down from above, on Rosh Hashanah, this level of Smoil, this level of the left, top of the last page, it comes about through the avodah from below to above. I am to my beloved in the month of El. That's why Doidi Li is also included in the Rosh Tevis El. So that means that also Elul has to do with the result of Doidi Li. The Doidi Li is talking about Rosh Hashanah Aseres Metshuva. Rosh Hashanah Aseres Metshuva is the level of the left. So even in Elul, it begins the level of the left, the ox plowing up the field, etc. The final letters of the four words, each one has a yud, so that you have 4 times 10. There's 40 days from Rosh Chodesh till Yom Kippur. So you see, it's really all one continuum, all one component. So therefore, just like the time of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is a time of Smoili Tachs L'Roishi, the level of the Pnei Shoyshim Merkava, the Shoyd of Kedusha, the level of plowing the field, the same thing. Elul is all part of that system. V'oidza is another idea that we see similar to this, that you have this type of connection with the month of Elul. Shegam Inyan HaMilah, also the idea of the Bris Milah. Through the Bris Milah, we said before, we refine both the klippos of the ox and the donkey. And that's why the Bnei Yankov, the children of Yankov, told them to have the bris. And that's why Avram Avinu had the smile of the shoyer, that he turned from Gorem into Chamoir through the Bris Milah, and the Chamoir, the Shchemer Chamoir, by having the Bris Milah would be mevatel the clip, etc., etc. All of this transformation took place through the Bris Milah. So it also is kosher l'chodesh Elul. The idea of a Bris Milah also has a connection with the month of El. Shari Echad Ma'Rosh Tevis Haner Mozim Be'Elul, who one of the Rosh Tevis that's hinted in the word Elul, Masha Kosov, Umol Avayalekecha, and Hashem, your God, will make a milah, bris milah, es levavcha v'es levav. The words es levavcha v'es levav is Rosh Tevis Elul, zarech of your seed, which is inyan milah. So we see that bris milah has to do with Chodesh El. Now here he's going to bring in something that the Alter Rebbe says, that we find that there are two levels of bris milah. There is, the Alter Rebbe explains, going back in the Torah, there's the bris milah that we perform, and there's the bris milah that Hashem does. There is removing the klippa hadaka and the klippa hagasa. The coarse klippa we can do on our own. The more subtle and finer type of klippa is difficult for us to do on our own. And for that, it needs to be Hashem does it. That's why we find two different psukim when it comes to what we're supposed to do when we have to give our heart a bris milah. Sometimes we see that Hashem does it, sometimes we see we have to do it, because we're talking about two different things. The end of line 10, and this itself, not only removing the coarse arla, the coarse covering, concerning this it says, you should circumcise the blockage of your heart, which means, umaltem means atem ba'atzmechem, you yourself. What does that mean in avodah shu inyan tshuva? That idea of tshuva is something that we need to do. It's not something that Hashem does. This is part of my mimer that we say by the bris. Elagam hasar. It's actually not Torah. I'm sorry. Elagam hasar saklipa daka. But over here, Elul is also about removing the more subtle, the more finer klippa. The more edle klippa. Shalzen, them are concerning the more subtle klippa that we cannot be asked to do, but rather it says, that Hashem, your God, will be the one that will give you the bris. Because the more subtle klippa is too difficult for the person to do. So we see the degree of the bris milah that's connected with Elul, that it's not just the coarse level of the bris milah, but even the higher level of the bris milah that Hashem does. So again, we see the connection of this shoyer וחמור with the month of El, because the refinement comes to the bris milah, and the bris milah has to do with El, and not just any bris milah has to do with El, but the highest level of Mal Hashem Elokecha Levavcha. So he says in line 16, the klolis inyan hamilah shebechodesh El hu hagilui. The general idea of the bris milah in the month of El is revelation. Mol lashon is galus. The word mol has to do with revealing. This is the idea of, just like physically, one is revealing and opening up the covering. So mol has to do with the word revealing, meaning that in the month of Elul, it's an empowerment from above. Similar to what it says at the beginning of our parsha, when you'll go out to war, and Hashem will place him in your hand. This idea that Hashem will place him in your hand, that is an empowerment from above, just like the general idea in the month of Elul is umal Hashem lekecha, that Hashem will reveal himself and give you the empowerment to do the avoid of the month of El. And it gives you the empowerment, I'll close, avoid this Kodesh El, Ba'ifin, Daniel Adoidi. It empowered that day, by revealing himself in the month of Elul, gives us the empowerment for the avodah of Anil Doidi, and Valshaides and Nasa Doidi Li, but Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Through that comes about the Doidi Li on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Therefore, we are also being empowered for everything that's coming about for the entire year, because that revelation, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, is a revelation that brings down everything we need for the entire year, until bringing down in the physical, in children and life, in sustenance, and all of that begins from the month of El, from the bris milah, from the Gilui of Hashem that empowers us to do the avodah of Anil Doidi v'Doidi Li.